Hello and welcome back to Jo's Art History Podcast Bitesize. Small, manageable podcast episodes that see me, Jo McLaughlin, your host and resident art historian, deep dive into a specific artwork or artist in 10 minutes or less. Although I'm immediately going to caveat that because the artist and series of works that we're going to talk about today is Kara Walker's Silhouette series. This is a really powerful series of silhouette figures and installations by the American artist Kara Walker. These came to my attention actually when I watched an episode of Blackish, and it was mentioned in an episode all about Black artists and impactful art series and movements within Black art history. And the minute I saw them, I was like, oh my gosh, what are these? And Googled them, and it's just incredible. So I'm really excited to bring this episode to you, and a really lovely way to sort of round off our bite-size warm-up episodes before season 4 kicks off. So let's get started. For those of you that may not know, Kara Walker is one of the most significant contemporary American artists and is renowned for her evocative and provocative artworks. Born in California in 1969, Walker emerged as a powerful voice in the art world during the 1990s, challenging perceptions of race, gender, and historical narrative through her stark black and white silhouettes. Her work often delves into the deep and traumatic history of the American South, exploring themes of slavery, racism, and the legacies of these issues in modern society. And the Silhouette series that we're going to be talking about today is a format that she began experimenting with in the mid-1990s, and it's really the series that helped catapult her into contemporary art world acclaim. Now, thinking a little bit back to Walker's upbringing, she was actually born into quite an artistic family. Her father was a painter and professor, and this environment nurtured her to have an early interest in art. She moved to Georgia when she was age 13 and had an experience that profoundly influenced her understanding of race and history. The southern landscape, which has a history of slavery and segregation, left a deep impression on the young artist. She pursued her Bachelor's of Fine Arts at Atlanta College of Art, graduating in 1991. She then moved to Rhode Island. She studied fine arts in painting and printmaking in 1994 during her master's degree. And it was during this time she began to explore the medium that would define her career, the silhouette. Now, thinking a little bit about the history of the silhouette as a medium and a symbol, it was a technique involving the creation of a stark black cutout against a white background, and it has a rich history dating back to the 18th century. Now, originally silhouettes were a popular form of portraiture, and it was prized for their ability to capture a person's likeness quickly and affordably. However, Walker subverts this tradition by using the silhouette to explore complex narratives rather than individual identities. The simplicity of the black and white contrasts allows Walker to strip her subjects down to their most basic forms, forcing viewers to confront the raw, often violent themes she depicts. The silhouette's autonomy is crucial to its power in Walker's work. By reducing figures to mere shadows, she removes individual characteristics, making them symbols of broader historical and social dynamics. This method also creates a certain distance between the viewer and the subject, which paradoxically intensifies the impact of the disturbing scenes Walker often depicts. Her use of silhouettes operates on multiple levels. They are aesthetically engaging, they're conceptually rich, and they are emotionally provocative. Walker silhouettes are crafted through a meticulous process of drawing and cutting. Using black paper, she carefully crafts each figure, often exaggerating features to convey emotion and narrative. The black and white palette is not just a stylistic choice, but a deliberate commentary on racial dichotomies. The stark contrast underscores the themes of visibility and invisibility, presence and absence that permeate her work. Now, the silhouettes themselves are often put together as installations within gallery spaces. And being part of an installation is crucial to their impact. She often uses light projections to cast shadows of the silhouettes on walls, creating an impressive experience that engages the viewer physically. The use of light and shadow not only emphasises the visual impact, but also symbolically represents the shadowy, often overlooked aspects of history. And within this series, as I've said, Walker tackles the brutal realities of slavery, the grotesque characteristics of racial stereotypes, and the complex power dynamics between different social groups. And her works often feature quite unsettling and provocative scenes, much with violence, sexual exploitation, and subjectification, forcing viewers to confront uncomfortable truths about America's past and its lingering effects. And it's normally viewer experience that's critical to the success of the Silhouette series. And she prompts the audience to fill in the details, engaging their imaginations and their preconceptions. This interaction is crucial in eliciting a personal response and encouraging reflection on the issue which is being depicted. Now, Walker's breakthrough came in 1994 with the installation titled Gone, a historical romance of a civil war as occurred between the dusky thighs of one young negress and her heart. This work, first exhibited at the Drawing Centre in New York, marked her entry into the art world as a force to be reckoned with. And I believe she was only 24 at the time, so she was doing incredibly well to not only get an exhibition at the Drawing Centre. She'd literally just stepped out of university. It's incredible. And the piece spans the entire walls of the Drawing Centre in New York and completely enveloped viewers in a sweeping scene which looks at the South's history, myths and fantasies. The title of the work is a play on Margaret Mitchell's 1936 novel, Gone with the Wind, a romanticised narrative of the Civil War and Reconstruction that glosses over the brutal realities of slavery. Walker's Gone undermines the romanticisation by presenting scenes that blend violence, eroticism and grotesque absurdity. In her silhouetted world, characters from the Old South engage in acts of violence and sexual exploitation, echoing the dehumanising conditions of slavery. Critics quickly took notice of Walker's unique approach. Her work was praised for its ability to confront difficult and often repressed aspects of American history with a brutal honesty that was both shocking and necessary. The silhouettes in Gone do not offer easy answers or moral resolutions. Instead, they force viewers to grapple with the complexities and contradictions of the past. And you might be thinking, in 2024, where we've had the Black Lives Matter movement, we are feeling more educated, particularly after the death of George Floyd. This would have been completely groundbreaking works, and actually still are. I would challenge anybody to walk into an exhibition that depicts this and not feel completely shook. And I would seriously encourage you, if you have never seen any of these works, to go and give them a Google. You will not regret it, I promise. And as I said, it was this series, first exhibited in 1994, that really propelled Walker into the contemporary art world as a voice and an artist to be reckoned with. Both critics and galleries sat up and paid attention. And it was following the success of Gone, Walker continued to develop her use of silhouette to explore the intersections of race, gender and power. Her work during the late 1990s and early 2000s expanded in scale and complexity, incorporating not just large wall installations, but also smaller cut-out figures, drawings, and even film. One of Walker's notable early works from that period is called The End of Uncle Tom and the Grand Allegorical Taboo of Eva in Heaven from 1995. This piece, like Gone, draws on literature and historical narrative, referencing Harriet Beecher Stowe's 1852 novel, Uncle Tom's Cabin. Walker's interpretation, however, strips away from the sentimentality of Stowe's novel to expose the underlying violence and exploitation inherited in the story of slavery. In Cara's work from 1995, The End of Uncle Tom, Walker presents a chaotic scene where the boundary between victim and predator is blurred. The figures are engaged in acts of brutality and absurdity, reflecting the grotesque reality of slavery and its dehumanising effects on both the enslaved and the enslavers. The work challenges the viewer to reconsider the narratives that have been taught about slavery, using a confrontation with the darker, less comfortable truths of American history. And throughout the 1990s, Walker continued to provoke and challenge audiences through her installations, and they became more and more ambitious, covering entire rooms, creating immersive environments through the use of film and light, which enveloped her viewers. And as just mentioned, this period also saw Walker begin to experiment with animated film, using cut-out silhouettes to create haunting, moving images that brought her figures to life. Walker's work has been subject to considerable controversy since her emergence on the art scene. Her unflinching portrayal of racial and sexual violence has sparked intense debate about the ethics of representing such dramatic subjects. Some critics have accused Walker of perpetuating harmful stereotypes, where others argue that her work is a necessary confrontation with the realities of America's past. One of the most notable controversies surrounding Walker's work occurred in 1997 when artist Bart Starr, a key figure in the Black Arts movement, publicly criticised Walker's use of racial imagery. Starr, whose work often involves the reclamation of derogatory images of African Americans, urged that Walker's work reinforce racial stereotypes rather than subverting them. Starr's critique sparked a larger debate within the African American art community and the responsibilities of Black artists in representing their histories and identity. But despite this controversy, Walker's work has continued to gain recognition and acclaim. In 1997, at just 27 years old, Walker became one of the youngest recipients of the prestigious MacArthur Genius Grant. The recognition not only validated her work, but also solidified her place in the contemporary art world. The 2000s saw Walker continue to push boundaries of her chosen medium, both in terms of scale and subject matter. In 2007, she created one of her most ambitious works to date, My Complement, My Enemy, My Oppressor, My Love, a comprehensive mid-career retrospective organised by the Walker Art Centre in Minneapolis. The exhibition featured more than 200 works, including large-scale installations, drawings and film, offering a broader view of Walker's career up to that point. Now, one of Walker's most significant and monumental works happened in 2014, and it's called A Subtlety, or The Marvelous Sugar Baby. And as I've said, it's a massive public art installation, and it happened in Brooklyn in New York. And the work marked a departure from her typical medium of paper silhouettes, and instead it opted for monumental sculpture that addressed similar themes of exploration, race and history. Now, the centrepiece of the installation was a 35-foot tall sphinx-like figure of a black woman made entirely of sugar, while also referencing the history of sugar production and its ties to the transatlantic slavery trade. Surrounding the central figure were smaller sculptures of black children, also made from sugar, carrying buckets filled with unrefined sugar. A Subtlety was Walker's first large-scale public project and was met with widespread critical acclaim. The installation was visited by over 130,000 people during its 8-week run, making it one of Walker's most visited and impactful works. And I would say maybe only second to her incredible Tate Modern Turbine Hall installation, which she unveiled in 2009, known as Fons Americana. And it was a 13-metre tall working fountain and inspired by the Victorian Memorial Fountain outside of Buckingham Palace. But rather than celebrating the British Empire, Walker's fountain in the Tate Modern explored the interconnected histories of Africa, America and Europe. She uses water as a key theme here as well, referring to, of course, the transatlantic slavery trade and the ambitions, fates and tragedies of the people from these 3 continents. Fantasy, fact and fiction were all met on an epic scale. And the last 2 works that I've spoke about, yes, that they're sculptures, but it's just sort of tying in the fact that her themes of identity, concept, thinking about how memory can skew your present understanding of things, or how histories are hidden and stories are left untold until they're uncovered and celebrated or exhibited and examined and excruciated under new understanding and light, all originated from her incredible silhouette series. And I love that these figures for her have sort of rebelled against their 2D forms and Throughout her career, they've become more and more and more three-dimensional until they've become physical, imposing sculptures. And in their own right, public monuments that ask you to confront and really think about the history of the world. And in particular, what side of the story is history forgetting to tell and bring to light? And there you have it, another episode of Jo's Art History Podcast, Bitesize. Small, manageable podcast episodes that see me, Jo McLaughlin, your host and resident art historian, deep dive into a specific artwork or artist in 10 minutes or less. If you've enjoyed this episode, please make sure to like, rate and subscribe. It helps other people find us and it means more to me than you know. And while you're doing that, why not share the podcast with someone you think might enjoy it too? If you'd like to support the future of the podcast, please consider purchasing and gifting me a book from my Amazon wishlist, which is in the show notes below. This will be used to research future episodes of the podcast, both full-length episodes and bite-sized episodes too. If you'd like to get in touch, you can do that in several ways. You can email me, joesarthistory@gmail.com, or you can find me on Instagram, which is @joesarthistory. Finally, I've been your host and resident art historian, Jo McLaughlin. Thank you so much for listening. And until next time, keep learning and remember, art is for all. Bye.